Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine, and this week, Connecticut officials were forced to stock 12,000 trout into 10 Connecticut lakes. Sea bass fishing south and east of Block Island has been on fire this week. Freshwater fishermen across the region are reporting excellent results for trout. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
In Massachusetts, saltwater fishing is really starting to wind down, or has pretty much completely wound down. If you had to catch a saltwater fish in Massachusetts, probably your two best bets would either be to go fish for some mackerel or pollock around the east end of the canal, or head up to the Amelia Earhart Dam in Boston Harbor where you might find some stripers. Another dark horse candidate for finding some stripers would be some of the sound-facing estuaries on Cape Cod. But luckily, freshwater fishing can take center stage in Massachusetts, and it really is in a big way. Trout fishing has been phenomenal, and it has been predominantly rainbow trout right now, but the guys are getting some brown trout as well. Gold seems to be a really popular color over the last week or so, and small seems to be a key. So guys throwing really small tins like Phoebes and Thomas Boyants and Castmasters and Crocodiles. We're talking 1/8 of an ounce to 3/8 of an ounce, no bigger than a 1/2 ounce, are doing well. Gold, again, is leading the way. There's several ponds on Cape that are producing fish like Peters and Hamblin and Grew's Pond and Sheep Pond and Mashpee Wakeby. These places are all producing fish. Off Cape, you got Long Pond and Little Pond, which are producing fish, and probably Mary's Pond is producing as well, and some of these other stocked ponds off Cape as well. But overall, the trout fishing has been very good. Bass fishing seems to be a little off. Hard to say why. It just seems like maybe the bite's been a little off this week. I have seen some guys getting some smallmouth bass on blade baits in some of the Cape ponds, but that's pretty much the story throughout most of Massachusetts. There are a few other things going on. I did hear about an 81-inch tuna taking its Stellwagen this week. There are a few guys that are getting some codfish, and I really believe that you could still catch some keeper blackfish in the western reaches of Buzzards Bay, but nobody's trying. I think there's probably some codfish in that area as well. But overall, that's the story that I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. In Rhode Island, we still have that bottom fishing bonanza going on. There's still very good results for blackfish, still good results for codfish, and the black sea bass fishing this week has been off the charts. I talked to Tony from Booked Off Charters. He's still running trips right through the end of the year and probably well into 2022. He said he made 3 trips this week. 2 of them were for sea bass and cod, and 1 was for blackfish. The sea bass trips were unbelievable. He said they were throwing back anything under 20 inches, and they're still bringing home limits on each trip. He said the cod fishing was not the greatest. They're finding a few, but over the course of those 2, full day trips, they were able to boat 12 cod total. 3 one day and 9 the next. So, the cod bite still isn't really where we might want it to be. But water temperatures are lagging behind. It's still a little warm, so maybe some of these fish are going to move in as things cool down. He also ran a cod trip. He said he didn't go far for the cod. He also ran a blackfish trip, and he said he didn't go too far for the blackfish. He said he's fishing some wrecks and some ledges inshore, 60 to 70 feet of water. They got 33 fish for the day. They pulled a full limit with fish to 8.5 pounds, lots of shorts mixed in. But catches have been really good. I talked to some kayak guys who are still doing well. I talked to Mike Wade from Watch Hill Outfitters. He said that he himself went out with a couple of friends. They went south of Watch Hill Reefs. They found a lot of sea bass and some tog there. He said even shore guys are still coming in to buy crabs. So that lets you know that the tog bite is still on, even in shallow water. And this has just been a phenomenal year for blackfishing, and it seems like the crosshairs have really been set right on Rhode Island the entire time. Striped bass fishing in Rhode Island, not hearing a lot. There's still some fish that are showing up at some of the mouths of the estuaries, like the breachways and the narrow river and places like that. Holdover fishing doesn't seem to be quite where we would normally expect it to be in any of the well-known or lesser-known spots that hold fish in Rhode Island right now. I think it's because the oceanfront waters are still pretty warm. They're still in the low 50s, and a lot of these estuarine waters are now in the mid 40s. So it's going to take a little time for the ocean water to kind of come down to that level, and when it does, I think some of those fish will move up. Only time will tell on that. But holdover fishing this week, by all accounts, has been a little off compared to what we expect for this time of year historically. And that's the story that I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. And as we move over into Connecticut, things get a little bit more exciting. There's a lot of different options in Connecticut right now. For one thing, there's still decent numbers of striped bass running the beaches, and I mean that can be said pretty much throughout the state. So you're going to want to focus around these rivers where you know that fish hold over in the wintertime. So if there's fish around the mouth of the Thames, there's fish around the mouth of the Connecticut River, there's fish around the mouth of the Hoosier, and there's fish popping in and out of some of these lesser known estuaries as well. So first things first, you're going to want to focus on these rivers, on places where water is exchanged with the Sound. Most of these fish are on the smaller side. You're going to find fish in the 20 to maybe 30 inch range. One place that's been particularly good is the Old Lyme beaches. Guys have been doing very well there on soft plastics, on lead heads, and really small needlefish. They're getting fish to 30 inches. That's nothing to sneeze at. I did hear about one really nice fish taken last week in the vicinity of the Connecticut River. I don't know exactly where. I don't know what it was caught on, but this fish, photos were shown to the guys at Rivers End Tackle, and this was a 50-inch striper that was taken within the last 5 days. That kind of lets you know you might have given up too early, and I might even be guilty of that one. As you head west, you're going to find some pockets of fish all along that shoreline, from Old Lyme to Clinton to New Haven. But the next place, and probably the best place to focus your efforts, is the mouth of the Housatonic River and throughout the Hoosier. There's a lot of fish in the Housatonic right now, a lot of bait in there. I've talked to a lot of guys who have been doing well, and they're getting fish in some pretty big baits, which lets you know that these fish are aggressive right now, and there's a good amount of bait in that river. So the bite has been very good there, and there's no reason to think it's not going to stay consistent. We have pretty steady weather. Water temperatures are a little higher than normal, so I'm expecting that fishery to last well into January this year. And, if January is mild, who knows how long it could stay really good. I mean, you can catch fish there every day of the entire year. But on these years when we have a little bit of, when the water temperatures stay a little higher, that bite tends to last a little bit longer. Other things that are going on. There is still sea bass in the Sound. They are exiting, but guys are getting them on some of the inshore ledges. You're going to start around 80 feet of water and go deeper from there. There's also been a few codfish mixing in with the sea bass in some of these spots, so that's a viable option. But some of the more exciting stuff is moving inland now. We're starting to see really good results on pike fishing in the Connecticut River and some of these shallow coves. Guys throwing golden pond shiners under a float are doing the best. We're seeing fish in that 24 to almost 40 inch range being taken using these methods. And a lot of ice fishermen are just kind of praying that things get a little colder, but for now, it's an open water fisherman's game. Some of the other coves, some of the deeper coves are holding calico bass, or crappie if you prefer that name, and yellow perch. And that bite has been really good too. So if you're into the whole panfish thing, you can put a pretty good day together on some of these coves, just throwing little countdowns or little tube jigs or anything like that. The other thing, as I mentioned in the intro, the Connecticut Fish and Wildlife was forced to release 12,000 rainbow trout into 10 lakes this was over Thursday and Friday of last week. What happened was there was a supply pipe, a water supply pipe that was going into that tank broke. They had no place to put them, so they either had to let them suffocate or they had to throw them in the trucks and toss them into as many lakes as they could. So I got a list here of 10 lakes. I'm just going to read it off to you, and each one of these lakes received at least 1,000 trout. There were more than 12,000 released, so you can do the math there. It's more like 1,200 per lake if they did it evenly. But here's the places that you might want to check out this week. Highland Lake, West Hill Pond, Tyler Pond, Beach Pond, Coventry Lake, Mashapaug Lake, Crystal Lake, Amos Lake, Gardner Lake, and Mount Tom Pond. All of these locations are definitely going to be giving up increased trout action over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, who knows. And a lot of these fish too are going to hold over because we don't see the kind of angling pressure that we see in the springtime. So these places only look to be even better come the springtime when they restock the ponds again, and there's just going to be more fish to go around. So that's one thing that's going on. Also, we're seeing really good results from the Salmon River and the Farmington River. These two rivers really just give up great action right through the winter, especially the Farmington. You have a lot of different options for ways to fish them, from bead fishing to bait fishing to throwing all manner of little jerk baits and little soft plastics. All these things are producing fish, and if you're watching closely on social media, you're seeing there's a lot of really nice fish being taken from these areas right now. And then the last thing, which is a carryover from last week, but the Atlantic salmon in the Connecticut River are going to become legal to keep this week. As of December 15th, you can take them home. And it's been stocked a few times over the last few months, including just a few days ago, or about a week and about 9 days ago. So there's good numbers of salmon in there. I've already seen results of multiple anglers landing these fish. So that's another option that's great for anyone looking to bend a route in Connecticut. And that's a story that I have for you guys in Connecticut this week. Hopefully you found the reports helpful. I know this is not historically like a famous time of the year to put in tons of time fishing, but there's a lot of options throughout our area, whether you want to fish for saltwater or freshwater fish or both. The options are still out there for all of us to take advantage of. The hardest part is just dragging yourself out of the house. So, with mild weather in the forecast and things looking pretty good, hopefully your holiday shopping is mostly done. You can get out there and take advantage of what's been a really phenomenal December. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman, please head over to the website, check out what we've got going on over there. There's free content there to kind of give you a taste. And, I can tell you a little bit more. We have articles that cover regions from Delaware all the way up to Maine. We do travel pieces that encompass, really any angling destination that you can think of. We have how-to, where-to information that covers our core regions, and then we have reports that give you all the information from everywhere in between. Beyond that, a subscription is only $29 a year, and that gives you 12 issues that come to your door. And then during the season, you get a weekly issue in your email box with new articles and fresh fishing reports every week. It's one of those things that you almost can't live without as a fisherman in New England. And that's the story that I have for you guys this week. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman, just give me a like and subscribe here on YouTube. Hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification whenever we post something new. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious anglers choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.